episode 4 of Both Laugh, the Dying Scene quarantine chats, or whatever we're calling it. It is now 7 o'clock on Thursday. We will wait for people to show up and say hi. Hi to any of you that are here right now. Thanks for actually joining us. If this is your first time checking out Both Laugh, thank you. If you've been here for all 4 or 5 of them, I apologize. Sal is here, so if there's too many people joining. That's a good problem to have. Let me scroll back and find Sal. And then, Sal, you actually have to request to join our little thing here. And that, because I don't know if I can request you to join up, but if you see the request button, just hit that and then we're good. Let's see. How's everybody doing while I'm waiting for Sal to join up? Hopefully everybody's good. Don't touch your face. Sorry. So this is episode 4 of Both Laugh, the Dying Scene quarantine sessions, interviews, whatever. Don't know how many we'll do. All of next week is booked. I'm booked out into the week after next too. So this has actually been pretty cool. So let me see if I can actually try to find you, Sal. The guy on the last episode was a total hottie. That's a fact. Let me see if I can go. Should maybe work what I just did. Did that work? Hey.
Hello.
What's up?
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Just chilling in the Biz Lounge. It's a great day. It's a great day.
I think this is the first time that I've ever done one of these with the person that I'm interviewing also on the wall behind the person that I'm interviewing.
Well, it's very hard to reach this level of accomplishment, and it's not for everyone.
It is. I was borderline nervous. I said, I wonder what Sal's going to wear. I'm assuming velour tracksuit, but it could just be like a bandana. So I'm not really sure.
It could be. It could be. I feel like I need to angle this camera down a little bit just because it's half screened.
Or bring it closer. Then we
That's
get
good.
you know what?
That's good.
It's awesome. So now it's just like the flowers and your legs. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So how's it going? Thanks for coming on. What are you drinking? Is that a coconut?
It's a coconut.
Like, is it a cup made to look like a coconut, or is it an actual coconut?
This is a real coconut.
That's awesome.
It's my quarantine. It's everyone needs a quarantine snack. So,
but is there like a place that does like you? As we've talked about before, you can pretty much tell me anything and I'll believe you, and you know that.
Sure.
Is there a place that does that near you that's still open? Because you don't know how to cut a coconut.
It's a supermarket that has them, and so I just buy them at the supermarket. I just can't tell which supermarket because it's like I don't want everyone going. Once people know where they can get coconuts, ready to go, I'm not going to wait in line for that.
Yeah, truthfully, we don't have that in suburbia. Shockingly enough.
But yeah, so how's New Hampshire?
It's New Hampshire. No, New Hampshire was last episode.
That's true.
Although where I live now might as well be New Hampshire, I guess.
I mean, you're very close to it, right?
We're closer to Boston than New Hampshire.
That's true.
Yeah, Wakefield is only 10 miles outside the city.
Yeah,
it just feels like a different move.
It feel like when you're in Wakefield, you feel very far from the city.
Yeah, that's true. Unless the train goes by.
I do like that bowling alley, though. It's very nice.
Yeah, because they updated it in 1957 and then just left it that way.
And just left it. Yeah, exactly.
Like you still have to score by hand with pencils. You still have to pay in cash. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, everyone in there has carpal tunnel from like the little pencils.
And the old-fashioned lockers, and yeah, that place is rad. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Nobody, no, that's fine.
But that's awesome. It's punk rock. So how are you doing? This is what, week 8 of quarantine now. Are you losing your mind yet?
I enjoy it so much.
See, that time I didn't believe you. How about that?
I really do, and I'll tell you why. Because like the thing is, when like that second week in March, when everything kind of like fell apart, right? I was like, okay, I just watched all of my self-employed income go away. So
Right.
the first thing I did was I signed up for every single delivery service you could possibly think of to see when I could get like verified. Postmates verified me right away. I did Postmates for like a week. It's not that popular, and I was just like freaking out because I was like, I don't want to work, but like I need to make other money. Then like the one
Right.
job that is like my steady income weekly, I still had, but like it's a remote job. It's mostly graphic design, and it's not enough to cover everything. So I wasn't able to like really sit home in quarantine. I was like out doing deliveries, and then Uber Eats took forever to verify. Once it did, I was out doing that like every single day. And then I was like, this like sucks. Like, I don't want to be out right now. Like it's awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, I'm doing deliveries where I'm seeing like $1 tip come through. I noticed like there was like some kid in Alston who like clockwork around 2 o'clock ordered Chipotle from the Watertown Chipotle, and like there's no delivery fee on that, and he paid like what, $7 for it. You think this guy's gonna really tip more than like $1? And
Right.
and so like I was just like, this sucks, but like I need to make some money to be able to like, pay my bills and pay my rent. Once the CARES Act came through and I saw that like they would be retroactively paying independent contractors, I stopped doing it because I was like, well, I think it's gonna mess up that if I keep working where I won't be
Yeah.
eligible some weeks. And so I stopped, and then when I stopped, that was like a week and a half ago. So that's when I started like staying home. And then my W-2 job furloughed me. So now I can actually really collect like regular unemployment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This week is the first week that I can actually submit to do that. So this is like really the first week where it's only been a week and a half for me. But being out in the world while everyone's like supposed to be quarantined, you're just really angry because you just see all the people that are just out and just ignoring like, staying at home orders. Just like, I know we all like going to like the park and walking and being outdoors, which is fine, but we all
Right.
can't go to the same park. Like that's the problem, right? It's like
Right.
I'm like driving around Brookline and I see like the reservoir area. You really thought not everyone thought like, hey, let's just go to the reservoir in Brookline. Like everybody is there. And it's just like,
Right.
come on.
Yeah, that is one of the things I wanted to ask about. How was it being out? I mean, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home mostly. I've had to
Yeah.
go out a few times, but how was it being out in the city? I've been downtown Financial District a few times because that's where our
Yeah.
office is,
Yeah.
and it is vacant. There's nowhere to get food. I mean, it's a ghost town. But how is it being in Alston, Brighton, Watertown, Cambridge, places like that
That's the
during the
interesting
day?
thing is like I when I was doing deliveries, I did go to Financial District and saw that as well, and I was like, there's nobody down here. It's like
Yeah.
crazy. And then the like Harvard Square also was one that I was like, there's like nobody here, and it was like really
Oh, wow.
interesting that nobody was there. And then but Brighton was like downtown Brighton. It's like business as usual. Like the problem is that like there's food places open, you know?
Right.
The fucking sub shop is open, the burrito shop is open, the coffee shop is open, right? And how do you differentiate which business is essential and which business is not, right? But the bubble tea place is open. Like I can't explain to you how like unessential bubble tea is,
Right.
and I love bubble tea. But like I understand that like right now I shouldn't be able to get a thing of bubble tea. But that's the
And
like
you're
that's
okay with that?
right, and I'm totally okay with it. But that's the
Yeah.
thing is that like, especially in like these little neighborhoods, like especially in Watertown, like, Watertown on Mount Auburn Street, right near where I live, it's not essential. Don't believe the comments. All these people saying the bubble tea it's not essential. All right, like it's not. So, like Mount
That's the
Auburn,
most back-to-back-to-back comments I've ever gotten on one of these, and it's all
right?
about bubble tea
Yeah,
being awesome.
exactly. Which bubble tea is awesome. I'm there with you. We don't need it right
Right,
now. We don't need it right
right,
now. It's fine.
right.
So like Mount Auburn Street, like right where I live, there is 2 blocks of like Armenian bakeries and like independent like eateries and stuff like that. All Armenian, and the post office is also there, and my bank and like the ATM and stuff. So like I'll walk down there and go to like the little Armenian market. I know the guy, and I pick up like a thing of hummus every couple of weeks or something like that. But like all the old Armenian people who live around here are
Yeah,
out there every day. Like they go to the bakery every day.
yeah,
They have their mask and it's like half on because they don't know how to really like leave it on. And
right,
then even the
right,
people working the counter are like, I mean, this is my business. I don't have to wear the mask. And it's like,
right,
no, like they just don't know. So it's just
right.
one of those things like, and I think that I think it's the worst now. I think at the beginning I saw it being a little bit more desolate, but I think we're at the point right now where people have been home way too long that everyone is being very lenient with like the rules and being like, well, it's
Yeah,
okay if I just do this. It's not as bad. But it's like everyone's doing that. So now it's just, I mean, even like when I said before, Harvard Square, was pretty empty. Well, me and Daniel went and got Felipe's in Harvard Square because we were like, hey man, they're open and like we want to
right.
support that business. Like we love that burrito place. So we went and we got burritos. And then the 4 girls in front of us took their burritos, and obviously they can't eat inside. So what did they do? They just ate at like the public outdoor table that was just like 10
Yeah,
feet
right
outside.
outside. Yeah,
And I was like, are you kidding me right now? Like that's the same thing, like.
right.
And the table next to them, there was other people eating there too. And then like everyone else had gotten stuff and was just sitting outside. And everyone's like, everyone's parties are sitting like, yeah, 6 feet apart from each other, but like do you think that like viruses measure out how far they can travel? Like, it's like
Yeah. The more you read about it, the more arbitrary that 6 foot rule is.
it's
It's
so
really just a
arbitrary.
rule because people kind of can figure out what 6 feet is, but there's
Right.
not really any rhyme or reason to why they say 6 feet, just that it's better than being close.
Right.
But
Right.
the further you should really be probably 12, 15, 20 feet away, but
Yeah.
it's tough to tell that to people. So they went with 6 feet. That's like literally the rationale behind it.
Like the official like distance that you're supposed to be apart from each other is really fucking far from that motherfucker. That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
official like, how
Right.
far you're supposed to be, and people just aren't taking that into
Right.
consideration.
Right. Especially because it's getting nice out now.
That's the thing. It's like it's just getting nice. Like I mean, and that's like people are doing that here, and in the
Yeah.
South where they're like living, like they're like very close to beaches. Like these people go to beaches all the time. Like
Right.
that's like their public park for them, and they're
Right.
like, well, it's fucking nice out. I'm going.
Yeah.
They're like, well, maybe
Right.
we'll find an area that's not close to anyone. It's like, okay, well, you and everyone else had that thought, and you're like, you
Right.
show up and you're like, well, we're here now. What are we gonna do? Not swim?
Right.
you know?
So we were talking about Wakefield before. We have the lake in Wakefield that people like to run around, jog around, walk around, whatever. Now it's closed. Like they've put barrels along any place that you would normally be able to park and
Right,
closed off streets
right.
so that people don't park there, so that they don't walk around the lake. And what do? Walk around anyway.
Rock around. The worst one I saw was when Postmates you get like super weird deliveries, but they can be worth more. So like I would have it open, and like rarely I would get like hit with these like really odd job ones. But there was one where like, you know, I was picking up a bag of groceries at the Spirited Gourmet Wine and Cheese Shop in Belmont and delivering it to like where Walden Pond is,
Wow.
which is like a good half
Yeah.
hour away. Like
Yeah.
anyone that's putting in that order has money.
Right.
Like that
Right.
person is not like struggling, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So I go and pick up that bag, and I get in the van. I drive up Route 2, and I'm like near Walden Pond. I see signs for Walden Pond and the sculpture park, the Decortiva Sculpture Park, which is one of
Yeah.
my
Yeah. Yeah.
favorite places. And
Sure.
I was like, you know what? I'm out here. Maybe after this delivery, I'll shut off the app and I'll stop by the sculpture park because it's super nice out, and like yeah, I've just been delivering every day. It would be nice to do something. I take a left to go down the road. I have to basically cut in between Walden Pond. And as I get closer to Walden Pond, like the parking lot is like fully open, like all the gates are
Yeah. Yeah.
open. And you couldn't find one parking spot at Walden
I
Pond
believe it.
if you tried. And there was
Right.
so many people, so many like parents pushing their kids in strollers, elderly couples just walking around holding hands. Like it was so insane. I was like, there's no way I'm going to that sculpture park. Everyone's there.
Right.
Yeah. It's
Right. And that, that's here.
it's
Like
reckless. Yeah, that's
uh,
here. That's here.
that's here. Right. Where we quote unquote get it and are doing flattening the curve and all that
Yeah.
allegedly. I guess. I don't
No,
know.
we don't get it.
How so I sort of talked about this with Daniel the other night.
Yeah.
That first show that got canceled, at least for me, was that Thursday, the 12th
Yeah.
of March,
Yeah.
the Dave Hodge. How quickly after that for you guys did you realize that not just this couple of shows is going to be canceled, but like this shit's going south for a while?
Well, I was supposed to work all those dropkick shows.
Oh,
And
right. That started that Thursday too, right?
right, right. No, Friday was supposed to be the first show.
Oh, okay.
So when Friday hit and the show got pulled Friday, and they were like, well, the House of Blues ones are still on, and then like a couple hours later, it was like, those are off. And then they announced that they were like doing that live stream on like Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
The job where I do graphic design is for like the Wilbur Theater, and I'm on the marketing team, which means I get all the emails that like are for every single show, like all the deals and everything what we're doing. And I kind of knew really like that Monday because I started to see every single show that we had coming up very soon start to cancel. And then I started seeing like slowly after that, when the Dropkick did like the live stream, like literally I think 2 days later, it was something like you can't be near each other at all. And like, the stay-at-home orders, I was like, man, they wouldn't have even been able to do that live stream had it been like a couple days later. Like that would have been like too many people. And like, like, because even at first, like I think Daniel had said, like we went to the practice space and we're like, let's set this up so we can like try to do live streams every week. Like it's, we can't be in large groups, but we can still get some people here. We can sanitize the room and stuff like that. And then like after that, like the full week, after, like, because the first week was really kind of just like a weekend, but after that full week was when I got the grand scope of it, because it was like, man, I was like, we can't even go to the practice space anymore. Like the practice space is closed. The first thing I did was I was like, I'm gonna go get the merch, because if I can't get into the practice space, I can't sell merch.
Right.
So I went there. I got a couple of amps, got some stuff so I can like do some stuff in here. But yeah, it was that week, because then I started seeing every offer and every deal that we had come through at the Wilbur being like, we're going to reschedule for next year. And once I started seeing the things,
not even for the fall, but for next year.
For next year, and then I started seeing things get pushed for June, and I was like, wow, that's ambitious. And I've seen some tours still not even announce cancellations for June, and they're just hoping. And I'm like, what world are you living in where you think we're going to go to a live show in June?
Right.
It's just not happening.
Does the Wilbur keep you in the loop about those things now? Or is it because everything's closed, like they'll get to you when they get to you, if it seems like things are going to open back up?
Like me personally, or their like audience?
No, you as being working there.
Well, I got furloughed last week.
Oh, well,
so now I'm not in the loop. I still get the emails coming through, so I kind of like see like some announcements, but like my job was like their newsletter that was going out every week and the marquee that was outside, and so they just decided for now because since I had so much issues with the self-employment getting, like basically when I qualified for my self-employment stuff, because I still had the one Wilbur job, I really wasn't able to get any financial assistance for my self-employment. So uh, I think they were just like, well, if we just furlough you for now, it'll
Yeah.
save the company money, and also you can get the assistance that you need for a little bit. So I was like, all right, let's do that. And they like, for them, like, you know, they shut off the marquee outside so that, because there's no one to update it right now.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
newsletter, they're only doing like, I mean, I think a show a week they're trying to go on sale with, if possible. You know, it's just one of those things like, I think I explained before that where you see the rescheduling and you see the cancellations, you know. Reschedule,
Yeah.
you don't have to give everyone their money back. Cancellations, you have to, you know.
Right.
And people are like, "Well, that's fucked up," but it's like, well, I don't know. If you were an independent promoter that has employees and you have, you know, you're trying to run your business and you know, even if you're not an independent promoter, even if you're House of Blues, you know, like that's a huge building, you have rent to pay and everything. If you give refunds back for every single show you had for the whole entire year, you are no longer in business. You know, like
Right. Right.
it's better off that you just that, you know, if you plan on going to the next show, you reschedule. I know like I know with like Ticketmaster and like AEG and the big corporations are like, we're giving you a small window to get refunds. But with Wilbur, they're just like, we'll take it on a case by case basis. There won't be a window. If you can't make it, like we'll try to make it right, you know.
It seems like that's a thing that started changing this week, though. Like those postponements going to cancellations. Because I feel like the longer this goes, people said, "Yeah, we're going to reschedule," and now they're just like the Rancid Dropkick tour. They are finally like, "No, it's canceled. We'll maybe try next year."
It's just one of those things like how long do you want to, you know, like if you're the
Kick the
agent,
can down the road.
like,
Yeah.
you know, like if you're the agent, you're doing like one, you're not making any extra money for like doing all this work. How many times do you want to do the work? You know, if you push it off and you say we're going to do the fall, well, when the fall comes, if that's not happening, and you're like, all right, well, we'll try for spring. You've now done so much work over and over and over again to push it, and every time it's getting pushed, you know, people that have ticket holders are getting restless, which is like, why are you even getting restless? Everyone's in the same boat. Like,
Right.
it's not like some people are getting to go to the show and you're not. We're just all not getting to go. You know, it's
Right.
just like, you know, like, and there's no definite date of when things are going to open up, when things are going to happen. So it's just one of those things like, if you have tickets to something and you still plan on going to that show, then just hold on to it and just see what happens. And then, like, I mean, if you really need the money, then sure, you know, like, go get your money back if you really need it. But like,
Right.
if you spent like, I don't know, $15 on a ticket, like, who cares? You know?
Right. So, what have you been doing this time, sort of creatively, and to keep yourself from going off the wall, or do you not care because you're like, I'm on vacation now? So, have you been
Um,
writing? And
I do try to be like I don't want to like spend this whole entire time just playing Animal Crossing in PlayStation. You know, like I was like I've wanted a Switch for so long and now that I actually have one, like I'm definitely like taking full use of it. But
yeah,
I don't want to spend all my time doing that. So I've been like myself just like been writing songs and then writing songs with Daniel too because like we recorded half of a Rebuilder record in January or like February. And then we had some, like the other half of it wasn't like quite finished, or there was ideas that like weren't quite there. So me and Daniel have kind of just been working on those. Um, and we've made a bunch of progress on them to the point where like we probably are getting to the point where we might have too many songs, which is fine with me. Um,
not a bad problem.
but
Yeah,
yeah, you know, it's like we'll probably go in with like five more and record them once we figure out, and then like the leftover songs, we'll still do something with them. And I've just been like working on some other stuff. I have like a couple like drum machine like analog synthesizers that I have no idea how to fucking use. So I'm just like watching videos on YouTube. Like today, like that's what like I woke up today at like 11 and I was like, all right, I think I'm just gonna sit down and like watch
yeah,
this hour long YouTube thing and like try to play with this a little bit. And that's what I did for like the first like hour and a half of my day. I did that. And then I worked on some other stuff. I found an amplifier outside that was just like
I
randomly on the
saw that.
street.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I brought that inside. I cleaned it off. I've been playing a lot with that because it's like this amp I've never heard of before, and I've just been playing with
Right.
it, and it sounds really good. I cook a lot, and I fucking hate it. I'm at the point where I never want to cook another meal again. Like
Right.
I love my friends and they're great and they've been super helpful. You know, like my friend Rachel came over and dropped off a bag of groceries on my porch, and so didn't like my old high school teacher because they were like, we saw that you lost your job, and I was like, I know, but it's fine. I was like, I'm going through like. So I'm like I've worked it out where I think I'm having around like one meal a day, and everyone's like, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, because I'm not doing much. I'm not doing all this energy, I'm not out every day. I'm not running. I'm not doing
Right.
anything but home.
Right.
So like I don't think I need to eat 3 meals a day. Like I kind of only having like coffee in the morning, maybe some fruit, and then like at around like 6 I'll eat like a meal, and then I'm kind of all right. So like both my friends were just like, you need like real food though. And I was like, no, I have like so many fucking cans of soup that I've never even opened.
Yeah.
Like that dented can of minestrone will finally get eaten, and like,
Right.
and it's like, and every day you're either like, you're putting fucking things on rice, on greens, or pasta. That's
Or
really your
pasta. Yeah.
choices.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm going through the motions of that, but then like, my old teacher brought me like a bag of groceries, and so then my friend Rachel and I have so much produce, so I had to
Yeah.
go through and like I was just like cooking such big meals that took me like over an hour, that I was just like, well, great, now I have all this food that I have for like the rest, like I have leftovers for the week, which is
Right.
awesome. But like I think I'm just to the point where I'm like, man, if I just can get takeout every fucking day, I think I'd be good with that. There's a Bertucci's up the street.
There's the Chipotle. You can go
Yeah, but I don't fuck with that Chipotle.
to.
There's better burrito places around here.
One of the things that dawned on me as I was sort of thinking about talking is that, and I'm glad you mentioned that you're writing songs with Daniel, especially, is that as many times as we've talked, and that's one of the things I like to do with people a lot is talk about their songwriting, talk about their process, that whole thing. But that I don't think we've ever talked about that, nor do I think that a lot of people sort of in like this punk rock circle really talk about that stuff. Like the singer songwriters talk about their process. I watch
Right.
Corey Brannon's show and Brian Fallon shows and stuff like that.
Well, that's the
But I
thing
feel
is
like,
every single white dude with an acoustic guitar acts like he reinvented the wheel and loves to tell you about
well, see, I'm fascinated by that. I, as a bearded guy with guitars,
it.
I'm fascinated by that, and yet at the same time, like in punk rock especially, I feel like people don't talk about that. The almost like the craft of songwriting isn't really considered as important in punk rock as it is in like bearded flannel guy music, even
Sure.
though the overlap between the cultures is so. Like Fallon gets asked about songwriting more now that he's Brian Fallon rather
Right.
than Brian Fallon from Gaslight Anthem. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
But so has this changed your songwriting? Like
No,
being
I
sort
wish
of
it was. I
stuck
wish it was
or
so much easier. I mean, I
yeah,
mean, I've always gone about it like, I think that I think honestly, in order to be a better musician, you need to listen to like you need to be open to a lot of music. And I think that, um, if you basically are like influenced by like the very generic 3 chord like pop punk band, and you try to write that way, your music's not going to be very interesting. Like you you need to have more influences and other stuff. So like I I've always like, I grew up listening to like a lot of classic rock from my dad, and my dad got me into the Clash, and that was like the first punk band I ever listened to. And then, like throughout all of high school, I listened to all of the Fat Epitaph catalog of stuff, and I thought it was the greatest music I've ever heard in my life. And I'm glad it was there because it made me want to play music and go into
right,
shows. But like I couldn't fucking put on like I don't need to listen to another Pennywise record ever again in my life. Like when
Right.
Pennywise goes releasing another record, I know what that thing sounds like, and it's like 17 songs. I know exactly what it is. Don't need
Right.
it. It's fine.
Right.
You know, like I like and I like the band. It's just like I need things to be a little bit more creative so that I can be more creative. You know, so I like
Yeah.
when these new like pop stars come through that, you know, like when Lizzo came out, I was like, I don't know who that is, but I'll listen to it, you know, and I'll be
Yeah.
open to it and see if I like it. And I did like it. I loved it. I thought it was great. I was like, there, you know,
Sure.
like she can sing and the songwriting is great. But it's funny because you look into all those, like all the pop world, and you see like on these records, there's like 40 songwriters on all these things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of
Yeah.
those things where it's just like, all right, well, if there's that many writers, it just shows you that, like, you know, people take influences from everywhere. So when I write, like, you know, I like writing punk rock songs, but I don't really intend for it to like be. I don't like write a song and go, well, this needs to be a really fast song. And that was actually something that happened on Mass Turnpike because, like,
Yeah.
with Rebuilder, I I I obviously started Rebuilder like with like I had like 6 songs, and I was like, I have these songs. They never got written into Dead Ellington just because I didn't play guitar in Dead Ellington. I wrote some of the songs. And I would show Brandon and my friend Jason the chords and be like, make this better than I can do it. Because I just wasn't confident to sing and play guitar. So
Yeah.
in Rebuilder, I had written some songs. And I was like, well, I'm not a good like guitar player and singer, but like after seeing bands like Lucero and like Frank Turner, and even like, you know, like people would always point out, they were like, Bruce Springsteen isn't a great guitar player. And I never thought of it that way. For me, I was
Mhm.
always like, you need to be like Eddie Van Halen to play guitar in a band. And like when I
Yeah. Yeah.
realized that you don't, I was like,
Right.
there is plenty of dudes making careers off of just like writing good songs and not being great guitar players. And I was like, I think
Well,
I'm just like done caring. I think I'm just gonna try it, you know?
the thing about Springsteen is he is a really good guitar player, but he realized that you don't need to be a really good guitar player to write really good songs. So he started
Right.
writing good songs. But back in like, I'm sort of a Springsteen dork. I mean, I'm sort of a dork who likes Springsteen,
Sure.
but he uh he was a guitar player, like growing up in Jersey
Yeah.
before he was really Bruce Springsteen. He was a guitar player who would shred, and then he realized that like you don't need to do that, and it's probably not. You're going to play in bar bands your whole
Yeah.
life if
Yeah.
you just
Totally.
want to whip it out and start playing
Like
fast.
we've
Yeah,
all seen the dude with the wireless pack at the fucking
hmm
tavern down the street where he's not going to move any more than 10 feet in front of his amp, but he's just fucking shredding and going for
right,
it. And you're just like,
right,
I don't need this, you know. And I
right.
knew I was never going to do that, you know. And I grew up playing drums. I still consider drums like the instrument I'm best at. So it was just like one of those things. Like I think when I write songs, like I write probably pretty rhythmically, especially when I write vocals, like. I'll write out lyrics and then I'm like, well, this has to rhythmically fit in with syllables and stuff. So sometimes I just have sounds for a verse. And I'm like, I know this is how this verse sounds, but I don't know what the words are yet. So as words come to me, I always have like a, in my notes in the phone, I just have like tons of just like folders of like different lines and stuff I have that I'm like, well, I like this line, but maybe I'll need it someday. So then when I'm writing a song, for, you know, sometimes I'll have the melody already and then start writing around it and like a line, I'll look in that like folder and see a line that will fit. Um, but then other times I just have the song. Most of the time I have the song and I don't have the words for it. And then I kind of need to figure out like you kind of get one part and then you make your way. You kind of figure out like, all right, I think this is what I want the chorus to be. I like these lines a lot. So now how can I like make the rest of the song around it? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
sometimes I only have the bridge of a song, which I have a song now. I like the bridge so much in the ending of it, but the first half of it, I really don't know what it should be. So I just kind of keep working at it or putting it on the table so I can come back at it later with like a fresh start. Um, but I mean, those first stuff, like going back to like how we did the records, like the first record like was all my songs, then the next one was like most of my songs with some songs that Craig brought to the table. And we had like, the fast punk beat on a bunch of songs because I was like, well, that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be a punk
Right.
band. Then
Right.
we kind of like had played for a while, figured out how we sounded, and like Grand Fromage, the New Jersey song, like that was the song that Daniel wrote that Craig had worked on. And, that's how that song came about. And that's probably the most popular song off of that record. And it wasn't like a double time song. So then when we got to Mass Turnpike, we were kind of already had a batch of like demos and songs, but like none of them were very fast songs. And I was like concerned. I was like, I don't know if people will like us anymore if we do this. Cause like,
Really?
yeah, I was like, we have no songs on here that are like double time songs. Like, is that going to like make people not enjoy what we do? Are people going to be like this? I thought it was going to come out and people were going to be like, this isn't like, it's not as energetic as the other record. And,
Mm.
it seems like they're like slowing down or something. But when that didn't happen and people really liked Mass Turnpike and I really liked Mass Turnpike and like, for me, it feels almost more like a comprehensive full length than rock and roll, even though it's like a shorter EP.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just kind of like, all right, if I never write a song that's like a fast double time song again, I think I'm fine with that. I think I'm just gonna write how I think a song should sound like, and not really be concerned with if it's punk or not. Because I think all the bands that I end up loving are the bands that always kind of like, they're not really punk in sound, I guess, but more in
Yeah.
like ethics or what they put out to the
Right.
world anyway.
Do you ever write on drums? Like, do you start rhythmically on drums, or do you write on guitar?
I usually write on guitar, but I write pretty rhythmic on guitar. I kind of try to figure out what the rhythm of the song is first and
Mm.
find a tempo of how I want the song to go, because that will dictate how I'm singing. Whether I'm singing things like elongated or singing a bunch of really fast words together. That's usually how I do it. Because sitting at a drum set, like I'll sometimes come up with like beats and rhythm and stuff like that. But it's not easy to like record drums and like bring it into a session for me. So it's just so much
Oh,
easier to
yeah.
just like sit here and then like put fake drums behind it and try different patterns and be like, that's close enough to what I need. Because by the time we get in the room, it's going to change with whoever's playing drums for us anyway.
So have you been able to write a little on the drum machines, or are you like not quite there yet? And have you seen what
Not,
Brian Venable's doing? Not to drop Lucero all the time, but have you seen what Brian
no,
Venable's
what's
doing?
he doing?
He's basically doing the same thing. He's just kind of stumbled into a couple drum machines and a looper and stuff like that, and he just laid them out and he's trying to figure it out. So he's got his laptop with the YouTube videos. Well, he
Nice.
found like the downloadable instruction manual, and so he'll read that, and then the YouTube video that explains the instruction manual that explains how to do it, and he's just trying to like figure shit out. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, with the analog synthesized drum stuff, I haven't been using that to write with it because it's not the amount of time that I would be putting in to figure out a drum pattern. It's going to be
Uh-huh.
fucking months before I can even put together a song.
Yeah, yeah,
Like when I'm doing demos, I actually usually track the bass first. I'll track the bass first, and then I'll just use like Logic has like a really cool like drummer feature where like you just basically put in the bars that you need a drum beat, and then you can change it from being very simple to complex. There's all these different drummers you can choose from, and the punk drummer is like Max, and like the what's listed as like the beats that he can play is like um there's what's it called? It's like East Bay is like definitely like the Green Day like beat,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like things like that. Like they have all this like they have one that's called Gilman, and it's just like all this shit.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it's like it's way easier. Like that's the thing. It's like the least amount of time I have to figure out drums, the best, honestly, because I think like all I need is something close enough to get me to where I can track the rest of it. Because like if Brandon listens to it, Brandon's gonna change it anyway. He's gonna change it to be something way more interesting than just fucking Max from the East Bay.
Yeah, Max from the East Bay. So, but the plan initially was to record for the new thing that might come out.
Yeah,
Uh, the plan initially was to record half of it and then pause and finish the other half, right? It wasn't like COVID interrupted the recording process. It was like get the
it
first
didn't. I mean,
batch done and
it seems like it did, you know, and it comes off
yeah.
like it did, and I think people think it did, but it didn't. We had the whole point of it was that, you know, with Rebuilder, um, with it was just we it's the older you get, just it's just so much harder to stay in a band. You know, I want to be
Yeah.
in a band forever and tour and play all over the world with my friends. That's what I want to do. It's the thing that I love the most in this world, right? But I can't force people to be there. It's just
Right.
you know, and if you are, then it's like it's not going to be fun for anybody. You know, the second
Mm-hmm.
you have somebody there who doesn't want to be there, it just sucks. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was like it was just kind of we had so much shit going on at the end of the year, and we had a whole bunch of demos that just seemed like they were getting further and further away, and you know there was people in the band whose lives were just getting more complicated. So I was like, well, you know, I just think we need to go in and just record what we have now, and you know it got dwindled down to just doing five, I think five, yeah, five songs. And I was like, that's fine. Let's go in and just do those five. And actually, it kind of changed my perspective on how I want to do music going forward, to be quite honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I think like, you know, going in and doing a record like we've done in the past where we took like a week or more, 10 days in a row of going in and doing a record, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I understand it if maybe you're traveling to a studio that isn't close by. But I mean, we're driving to J
You're going
Moss
to Haverhill. Yeah.
to Haverhill, you know, and
Right.
I think Jay is one of the best engineers I've ever met in my life.
Yep.
And you know, going to him is like, we're like, all right, well, let's do Monday and Tuesday. We'll do the bass and drums. The week after, we'll do Monday and Tuesday again. We'll get to guitars and maybe some vocals. And then the week after, we can take another day if we need to. It felt so much more relaxed to do it that way. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like it was like, you know, we don't have this big time crunch either. You know, it's like I was like, if we need to add another day, that's fine. Like if by the time we get to our last day, we need to add another one, I'll pay for another one and we can schedule it for the week after. It just became so much easier to be able to go in and do it that way than have to cram everything into this one 10-day period. And you know, like when you're doing a full length, there's so many songs and there's so many
Yeah.
parts that you need to get right. I mean, we have half of it done, but there's no keyboard parts yet because I just I was like, well, we'll just finish what we have and then I'll send it to Rick in New York. He can write the keyboard parts, and when he's ready, we'll just bring him down here and for a day we'll go to Jay's and record the keyboards. And so I gave everything to Rick, and he, you know, he's still writing keyboard parts, but I was like, I think this might be like, you know, I wouldn't say this is definite, but like this might be the last full length record that like I try doing. Because I think like, you know, when I look at the state of music and how it is and stuff like that, I
Mm.
might be like, I might want to go in and just be like, here, we have two songs that are awesome. Let's go in and record those two songs, and let's release those two songs like, you know, maybe months apart from each other, and put like PR and work into it. Because when you do a full length, they only kind of push a couple, like you only get a push for a couple months anyway on
Yeah.
like
Right.
two songs or so. So then the rest of the songs kind of don't get any attention except for whoever buys the record. So it's like, you know, I don't know. It's, you know, I think we've been focused on full lengths for so long as a music industry, and especially in the punk world. I think that maybe like I always think back to that Soul CD where they did one song a month for a whole year and then
Yeah.
released it as a thing together.
Right.
And you know, there were some songs on there that I thought sucked. There were some songs on there that I thought were great, but I kind of was able to like, you know, everyone was coming kind of able to make up their mind of how they felt about that song on that month when it came out. It was like this really long, almost listening party that we could all kind of just be like, all right, this song was great. I'm not into this one. I can't wait for the next one. You know, it was like they got the full amount of like PR and publicity out of they could for a whole year off of a record. And when you
Right.
look at, you know, the pop world, someone like Billie Eilish, who blew up from just putting singles out every 3 months,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I'm not trying to be that, but like maybe I just need to take a different approach of how I do things where I'm going in and recording a song, making a music video for that song, you know, putting it out in the world. And maybe when there's enough of them, you put together an EP, or maybe at that point it becomes a full length because there's enough of them out. But I think maybe going in and like really trying to like put all your time and effort into one full length record, it's like, okay, you won't hear from me for another 2 or 3 years, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Right. So that is a thing that they do more in the pop and hip hop world
Yeah,
that hasn't really translated over into the punk rock world or really into any
it
other world.
hasn't.
But
It hasn't. And
look
I
at
think
somebody like,
when you,
wasn't Chance the Rapper worth like $30 million or something like that before actually selling an album? Because he never
yeah,
made an album up until then. It was all
right.
singles, mixtape, drop a couple songs here. Yeah.
And that's something I
The,
see all the time doing merch. It's like, you know, doing merch, like I will be doing merch for someone I've never heard of before. And they don't have a record. They have a couple of t-shirts and stuff.
yeah.
And the record is not like they've never even released a record. And I'm just like, how are they selling out this room and they've never released a record before?
Yeah.
It's because they know the songs, and the way you get music is different now. And especially if you're younger, like if you are a young teen in this world, guitar music is so weird and foreign to you. You know,
Right.
it's like, I don't think that's my audience either, you know? But like, I'm not gonna like, I wouldn't push it away. If I get a younger audience, that's fucking great, you know?
Right.
And I always, you know, and I try with that stuff with like new channels. And that's why, like, you know, I dove into TikTok to see what it's all
TikTok.
about, you know?
Right.
Because I want to know. I just want to know if this is something that can help me, or you know, can it benefit me in any way? And I just like when I think back to like some of my favorite bands, some of my favorite songs that are done by some bands are like the songs that like existed on an EP, you know, or on a
Yeah.
7-inch, you know, and like they eventually put out the record that's like, here's 5 7-inches put together on a record, and you're like,
Right.
that record is so good because it's the best
Right.
songs, you know.
Those
So
those of us
I
who are old
that's
enough
yeah.
remember buying the Green Day 1039 smoothed out slappy hours, or like the compilation of their first couple of 7 inches
Right,
that Lookout put out.
right,
Because that
yeah.
and that was awesome.
Totally. And I mean, I think I've always said the best Alkaline Trio songs are their B-sides. Like that Warbrain
Yeah.
song is amazing. That's my favorite Alkaline Trio song. And it was on the Rock Against Bush comp. It didn't come out on anything else. Why do I care what it came out on? I kind of don't. You know, like
Right.
all I know is I love that song. And it came out later on, like I think Remains or something, their compilation of stuff.
Right. Right.
But you know, and that's the thing, is that like I don't think you can just be that way. But like you know, we're gonna put out another full length record, so we would have had Rock and Roll, which is a full length. This new one will be a full length. We have an EP in between there that I almost consider maybe more of a full length. The first thing we did is an EP. We have a couple digital EPs with like the Christmas thing and the Singing for a Future thing. It's like I feel like I don't need to like bring LP 4 and 5 into the mix. You know, maybe I'm just I just want to focus on writing good songs and putting those out there. And you know, we've never put out 7 inches. And maybe that's like the next thing I'm doing is putting out 7 inches with only a couple songs on it, you know?
Well, at this point, I mean, unless you have the days of the label sort of beating down your door, asking for where's your album, where's your album, where's your album, those are over. So if you have 5 songs in the can, why not put them out as an EP
Right.
or as 2 7-inches? Why bother with LP3 or whatever?
Right. I think that like, for me, the whole thing is just like, do the songs cohesively go together, you know? And that's one thing I'm trying to do on this full length too. It's like we have the first five. These next five need to fit in where when you listen to the record, you will not be able to tell which batch is from what. And,
Yeah.
like and I think that's what it comes down to. It's like you need to make sure everything fits together. And if you got three songs that feel like they fit great, awesome. Release it. Put it out to the world. That's one thing
Right.
I always liked that Paint It Black started doing. They stopped with full lengths too. They're like, we're just going to
Right.
release 7 inches as we write stuff. We're just going to like record it and do it.
And I think even the Souls are kind of going that way too. They put out
Yeah.
an EP, whatever, a year and a half ago. They've got another EP in the can now. I think that seems to be, especially because they live in all different parts of the country. So
Yeah. It's one of those things like when you're 20 years old and you all live in like this shitty house in Alston, it's easy to
right.
be like, let's go to the basement and record. And I wish I wish I still had that. I wish
Yeah.
I lived in a house of my best friends and my band members and being like, let's fucking everyday write music. But I don't. And like, if I, like, my whole thing is always like, I can't force what I don't have. So I need to just make do with what I do have. Like, and that's always been my whole entire career. Like,
Yeah.
we can't get booked at this venue, fine, we'll just rent the room, we'll just do it ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna put out a record, fine, I'll make a record label that is not gonna do anything except for put out a record, and it's gonna
Yeah.
seem like we're on the label. Like, that's just kind of always been how I do things.
Is that the plan for the next one? The one that you're working on now is to sort of self-release it, or do you have somebody lined up?
No,
Or
I want to release it with a label in the U.S. Like, I know Gunner in Europe wanted to release it when we
yeah,
first initially talked. I'm under the impression that they still want to too. And they were the one who actually first approached us and been like, we want to release your record in Europe and bring you over for a European tour, which is what I've always wanted to do.
right,
And
right,
I was like, cool, we're not close to being done yet. And they're like, it's
yeah,
fine. We like, let us just keep us informed and we'll figure out a timeline. And that's basically all I've done. And my goal is just to kind of have it done so I can give them something worthwhile to put out and like book tours around it. And then find someone in the US who would want to release it here. They offered to release it in the US too, but I was like, I need to first see who would be interested in
right,
doing that.
right. Before this cuts us off, because we're actually almost sort of up against 8 o'clock, but I wanted to talk about the biz because I find the biz fascinating, and I was actually going to spend probably most of this conversation talking about the biz, and now we have like 7 minutes left. But so
I mean,
where did that idea?
I mean, I can keep talking. So,
We can schedule round two. The problem is I can only save an hour at a time.
all
So if
right,
we
right.
go over and restart, then I can't save it.
Well, I'll make it.
And
I'll make it.
I did figure
I'll
out how to
kind of.
save them and put them on YouTube though, so
Oh,
that's
you
good.
did? Yeah. Tell me later about that because
I will, yeah.
I couldn't figure out. Basically, I mean, the biz just started just from it's one of those things like there is somebody I know who is a music business teacher, and I was just like, that person should not be a music business teacher in any way because they don't know anything about the business. And I just thought it was so ironic that they were the person who was telling people about the
Right,
business, and I was just like,
right,
they couldn't be more wrong. And I I was like showing up to these jobs and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'm a music business teacher now. If I just say I am, I guess I am. And it's like it started just
right,
like, filming these things that I would see in these scenarios. And obviously, Daniel would always bitch about fucking what band pissed him off this week at Charlie's. And I'd be like, we got to put you on as promoter Daniel. So it was just all these
right.
things that I like. Honestly, the material just writes itself because it's just always there. It's so stupid. It's things that don't exist in any other industry, really, because it's so
Yeah,
absurd. And it's just like it's so stupid. So it's just one of those things where it's like I would talk about it, record it, and put it in the world, and be like, this week on the biz, like we got this, and like I luckily know people who are in like bigger bands and stuff, like, for example, like Frank Turner. Like, I'm sure that if we weren't friends, he'd be like, I'm not fucking doing this,
yeah,
But
yeah,
like,
right,
it's the fact
right.
that like everyone knows I just like kind of bust balls and like do these bits that like I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna ask you these questions and like, I have a good enough relationship with like some of these people where I can just ask them things. Like one of
Right.
my favorite ones ever is asking is speaking to Ben from Lucero about how you have to pick a unique name that no one has ever had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was awesome. That
You
was
know, and
awesome.
it was great. But that's the thing is that like at the end of it, I've had people who are like not in bands and stuff who watch it, who really enjoy it, who've sent me
Yeah.
messages personally being like, I've learned so much from your episodes
Oh,
because it's like,
absolutely.
you know, which is
Absolutely. And I
great.
think there's this air of like it doesn't take itself too seriously or
Hmm.
whatever because it's you. Uh, except that it is like you learn so much from watching it, and some of it is stuff that seems obvious just that nobody has actually said it.
Right. And I find that
But
happens a lot.
yeah, yeah, it's like talking about these secrets that everybody knows except that nobody actually talked about. And then once people talk about it, they're like, "Oh shit, yeah." And so I can see where there's like a thread between some of the stories, even though if you're talking to different people,
Yeah.
because they all sort of get it, and it's like, oh, and here's a story, oh, and here's a story, oh, and here's a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. It's like we all loved Spinal Tap because of how real it was, you know? And I
Right,
kind of just took that idea and just kind of like, well, let's, you know, here we are so far past that movie when it existed,
right,
and this shit still happens.
yeah,
It's, you know, and it's just like, you know, revealing that curtain to show people how stupid these things are is like, you know, I don't know. I just like I think it's beneficial. I've had people, kids in other bands be like, you got signed, that's great, like you guys must get, you know, like they probably do, they book your tours and pay for your, like, you know, for you to get to places and stuff like that, like you get tour support and they must like do all this stuff. I'm like, dog, that's not how it works. Like they don't do any of that at all. Like literally
right,
all they do is like, you know, some of those labels, all they are is just kind of like a money advance to put out
yeah,
a record. That's all it is. They're gonna ask for
right,
it back, would they, you know, like that's it. And I've had
yeah,
like, you know, a conversation where people get upset and they're like, fuck that label, man. Like they don't treat their artists right. I'm like, why do you say that? Well, they only give tour support. Who the fuck gives tour support? Who's
yeah,
getting
right,
tour support? You know?
right, right,
You mean the guy that has a wife and kids that lives in the suburban home who fucking works 40 hours a week isn't giving you the money like
yeah,
out of his paycheck for you to go on tour? Fuck no. He's taking it so he can put food on the table for his wife and kid.
right. For your album that might sell 5,000 copies if you're lucky,
Right, correct, exactly. So
you're
it's just
not getting
that's
a bus.
I just think it's so funny. So, and I'm glad people think it's funny too, because like I enjoy doing it, and I just feel like I can always keep doing it because the music industry will never have a lack of material.
Right. For as long as Spinal Tap has been a thing and a thing that people know is real and is funny, nobody's learned a damn thing from
Yeah,
it.
and that's only, and like, you know, I kind of push the line of some of the shit I can talk about, but can you only imagine the shit that I can't talk about?
Oh, right. Right. Yes, I can from some of our conversations.
Yeah, yeah,
Before that, yeah, we've only got like a minute left. Thanks for doing this. This is awesome.
yeah. No problem, man.
You're
Anytime.
Yeah, you're one of the people that I have always relied on to like I know I can at least run this idea by Sal and see if something makes sense. So I
Yeah,
like picking your
totally.
brain and I like picking your brain. You're a good man.
Well, thanks for
Uh
doing this, man. You know, people need something to see.
Next week I have Derek, the homeless gospel choir, will be on Monday. So that'll be cool.
Nice. You can ask him if I can play on his show. If when do I get the invitation to play on his show?
Oh, I'll ask him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
ask him.
absolutely. I will. Thanks for doing this.
All right, man.
Hopefully we can get out and see people again in the future, or we'll just do a round two if this seems like it's going to take forever.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
Awesome.
All
Thanks,
right,
bud.
man. See ya.
Bye.